meeting in Istanbul. A senior Ukrainian official has confirmed that the Ukrainian delegation is en route. Meanwhile, Russian state media has reported that the Russian delegation has also departed Moscow to participate in what will be the third round of talks between the two sides. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov confirmed Russia's participation and stated that Russia expected the meeting to be very difficult. He noted that discussions would include issues related to draft memorandums and potential exchanges. Now we're joined by Professor Vasilin Popovsky. He's a professor and vice dean at Jindal Global Law School, joining us live from Bulgaria. Thank you, Professor, for joining us today. Good to see you. Now, the Kremlin has mentioned issues relating to draft memorandums. What kind of agreements of compromises could realistically emerge from this discussion that is to take part today?
Well, we still need to see what will happen. This is the third round of negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. The first two rounds, also in Istanbul, produced very little, as we remember. There was basically exchange of prisoners of war, 1,000 each, which is a good news for the families, but not much more than that in terms of the ceasefire of peace negotiations. And the second round also exchanged some dead bodies. Again, very minimal outcome out of those two rounds. So this one, the indication is there could be a further prisoners of war exchanges. Again, I will consider this to be very minimal. Obviously, families will enjoy some boys coming back home, but in terms of the war, in terms of the ceasefire, that's nothing yet. We haven't seen anything. The positions of Russia are demanding territories, demanding demilitarization of Ukraine, and all of these are absolutely unacceptable. So unless Russia is under pressure to remove those demands, there is a very little hope that something will come out of the Istanbul meeting. There are also talks about high-level meeting between the two presidents, Putin and Zelensky. Again, we need to see how serious are those. Usually, yes, maybe such a meeting can give a certain dynamics and produce something, but that's not yet clear whether such a meeting will happen and what will the outcome be. So I remain very skeptical about the negotiations from today in Istanbul, unless we see some new dynamics, unless we see some developments. Otherwise, if it is just another meeting for the sake of another meeting, that doesn't produce much. Russians are trying to play that game, to show they are constructive on the negotiation table, but in the meantime, they continue to bomb and kill civilians in Ukraine. They continue the war fight. They don't agree on a ceasefire, something which was often discussed already many times. There were demands by the US administration and Donald Trump personally to agree on an unconditional 30 days ceasefire, and the Russians simply ignored all of those already for 6 months, which means, again, not much to expect from Istanbul meeting between Ukraine and Russia.
And Professor, now given the Kremlin statement that no one expects an easy journey, what are the main challenges that are likely to hinder progress in the upcoming talks?
Well, the position remains very different, as I mentioned. The Russians are demanding unrealistically basically Russia is telling Ukraine to surrender, which obviously cannot happen because Ukraine is defending very successfully its territory. Russia is not doing any military advances, and they are trying through diplomatic channels to achieve what they cannot achieve through military means. And that's not a proper game. So effectively, Russia is confirming that its own position is absolutely unrealistic. You cannot demand the opposite side to surrender if you have no tools to do this politically or with military force. Obviously, the world is very much behind Ukraine already. Even the US administration realized that the Russian side is the one with no cooperation at all. And over time, the expectation would be to increase the sanctions on Russia and to increase the support for Ukraine. And that's what all states should do in order to see some outcome here. Unless Russia is punished for what it did over the last 3.5 years, and not only with sanctions, but also with much stronger pressures, very little can be achieved. Russia remain ignorant exactly because they don't feel the punishment of all the war crimes, all the killing of civilians, which they did over the last 3.5 years.
And Professor, lastly, why is Turkey's role as a host for these negotiations? Like, what is their role?
Yeah, Turkey is, first of all, very geographically well situated to host Ukrainians and Russians. It's very short flight from Kiev and Moscow to go to Istanbul. It's also kind of a strong global player over time. President Erdogan is ambitious to show that Turkey can be a peace negotiator. There were negotiations in Istanbul in the beginning of the conflict back 3.5 years ago. Turkey wants to be seen as a kind of a emerging global power with its diplomatic experiences. It used to be Ottoman Empire back in the 19th century. So it's actually a very good place to meet, both historically, geographically, politically. President Erdogan has a good respect both in Ukraine and Russia. So all admiration for Turkey to do that work. Absolutely no problem with that.
Thank you for that insight. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic. That was Professor